Hi, I'm Krupakran. I'm working on history, um, and I sit down while I have my second cup of coffee, and then talk for a few minutes and share that. That's the plan. Um, Today, I was thinking I can talk about managing time and motivation. That's a topic of evergreen interest for me, um, and also I'm hoping that as what I'm trying to get out of these sharing sessions is, um, I was thinking, the thing that has always motivated me the most is sort of this camaraderie of doing things. Yeah, in school, in college, the things that when I look back as the most enjoyable moments. There's things we did together and had a lot of fun. Like in college, there was this very uh, nerdy but fun few months of recompiling Linux kernels, and we used to do that as like a group of four people, me and three of my friends at his apartment. Um, Anyway, fun times. It's a story for another day. Um, but what I'm trying to say is that even though I'm working on history on my own, it's fun to share and kind of have this feeling of um, me having my friends with me while I do it. Um, so anyway, that's the primary thing that I'm hoping to get out of it, and I'm already enjoying it. The first few times it felt very strange, and I'm sure there is an element of stage fright as well. But the solution is to just keep doing that, right? Like hopefully a year from now, um, I'd be a lot smoother. Who knows? But my plan is to like improve small things as I go, and then that will add up to something significant over time. For example, trivial example, I added a lamp right there because when I rewatched my previous videos, one side of my face was much darker because there is a big window on the side. Um, so that is to say, small improvements accumulate. I'm just not saying this for this video thing. That's how I try to work on anything. You know, like you can have this peaceful feeling that as long as you're improving um, one thing at a time, it could be something really small. Then that compounds to something really significant over time. And when you look back, you would be like, wow, that was, I don't know how I managed to do all of that. But it's just one small thing at a time. And that sort of thinking has worked for me in the past. So speaking of, the reason I want to talk about managing time and motivation is it's this perennial topic of improvement for me, and I think that would be interesting for other people as well, and hopefully some of you can give me suggestions. So there are two kinds of distractions, right? One kind of distraction is really easy to identify because it looks like a distraction. For instance, I struggle with um, wasting time on, as I shouldn't say wasting, because that's a value judgment, and you don't really know if it's a waste until afterwards. But spending a lot of time on hacker news, right? That's something that I struggle with, and I have various levels of um, managing that better. I used to be a lot worse. That much I'll say. Like I used to spend a lot of time on Reddit, um, and that's at least Hack News. I could make an argument that I'm learning something that helps me towards making my startup better. Although that's a big argument. Um, but sometimes I regret having spent a lot of time on Reddit, but sometimes I don't because that sum total of those experiences, however trivial, adds up to what I know for you know um, for better or worse. So anyway, that's one kind of distraction. And while we are on that topic, I came across this browser extension. I'll link to it. It's called Intention. I have wanted something like that for a long time, and someone actually did it. So I'm happy that I don't have to do that myself. Um, it's just a simple extension that blocks websites, but does it in a way where you can set an intention, like okay, I'm just gonna browse for 5 minutes, and then 5 minutes later it reminds you again, blocks it again. And the whole flow of how it's done is really good. And so that's and I'm gonna use some of that workflow for history, especially with the way the extension onboards the user. Um, when I use when a user installs the browser extension, the history browser extension, I ask for a set of permissions, and then they can enable more permissions afterwards. So I keep the initial permissions minimal, and then they can, if they choose to involve history in accomplishing more, that's also possible. That's an improvement over what I had even before that. Even before that, I just had a set of all the permissions that I could possibly want, and that's not the right approach, because you can the extension stores, like meaning Chrome and Firefox, they crack down on that kind of setup. I only did that because that's where I started. And then B, it's not great for the users to look at all these permissions. It looks scary, and who knows what the hell that extension is going to be doing, right, from their perspective. Since then, I've pared that down, and I've also made the browser extension open source. So hopefully that alleviates some of those concerns. But I want to go one step further and then do what this extension that I'm talking about, Intention, is doing, which is you ask for no permissions. When they install the browser extension needs no permissions. And then you're taken to the next page where the list of permissions with the reason for why you need that permission is listed with checkboxes. And the users can just uncheck the things that they don't want and then click next, and only those permissions are requested. So, very fine-grained approach there. Gives the user all the control. But I'm getting way off track here. Coming back to so to summarize, that Intention is great, and I'm hoping to take my learnings from that and then use it in history. Coming back to the original point, distractions. Those kind of distractions are easy to handle. The kind of double whammy distractions that I'm realizing that are the most harmful for my, I don't want to say happiness because it's a loaded term and people always wonder what is happiness anyway. If you pursue happiness hard, that makes you sad, and all that stuff. So instead of that, I would say contentment. Okay. So I feel that if I work hard in a day to my satisfaction and get a good, maybe even that is, the not the best way to think about things. I shouldn't be attributing, I shouldn't be yoking my happiness, my contentment to what I materially accomplish in a day. But I'm not that enlightened yet. But for my current level of enlightenment, if I put in a good day, at the end of the day, I should feel content. And very often I don't, because I try to get twice as much done in a day that I can possibly reasonably do. So of course I don't get them all done, and then of course I feel like I wasn't productive at all. So what leads to that, right? So we can go into that, and maybe I should set reasonable goals and all that stuff. And I did talk to my friend Alan, who, in my opinion, and also objectively, is really productive. And anyway, before we talk about that, so this idea of how do you feel content, right? You can design the day so that you do feel content when you accomplish what you set out to accomplish. Yeah, there is another trap that I fall into there, which is when I start working on something, I want to push out a feature, so I start working on it. Then I get all these ideas around that. It's not attention, an issue of attention either, because I can focus for a really long time and be productive. But really, this is an important, valuable thing that my brain does at that time, is to give me all these ideas, and then it's not reasonable to expect for me to have had all those ideas prior to that, because it is the process of working on that idea, on that task, that is making your brain make all those connections, and then you come up with these ideas. So your brain's buzzing, and you get all these ideas, and I write them down, and I'm thinking about them, and a few hours go by, and I have not made as much progress on pushing the code as I have. And if I'm wise, then I would think, wow, that was valuable for history. But I'm not as wise, so instead I think, wow, I got nothing done. So that's something that I'm trying to be more mindful about and improve upon. So because I was thinking about all these things, when I was chatting with my friend Alan, who is the founder of Walk-A-Time. We were doing a Zoom call yesterday, and it was a very interesting conversation. So I asked him, "Hey man, like, how do you do this?" And if just to give you some context, like he's very productive, but to me he comes off as also very not distracted, but I say this with love, but he bounces off the walls a bit more than I do, I think. But anyway, but his answer was really useful for me. He says that he doesn't try to get a ton of stuff done, ton of different stuff done. He just tries to get one thing done. And then I thought, was like one thing in a day, right? But he said, no, I try to get one thing done maybe in a week. Um, and I asked him how he deals with this thing about getting all these ideas when you're working on it, because you're working on it. And he said that by the time, so he spends a lot of time um, before he actually sits down to code, thinking about this, right? Like, when he's doing other things, you know, he listed some examples. He's doing some grocery shopping or giving his newborn a bath and all that stuff. His mind is just, casually working out the details of what he's going to be working on. Like, oh, so he's able to fully like see what he needs to do, how the feature will connect with other things, and what the user will see and experience, and what exactly they'll do. And by the time he sits down to code, it's so fully fleshed out in his mind that he just can't wait, getting it all done. So there is, like, you could think of it as a lot more prep work, although not quite quite structured, but it's just that way. And it would be interesting for me to try that as well, because there is no reason for me to jump around, although I feel I feel like I need to, because I'm the only person on it, so I have to do marketing and hiring and coding. And when I do work with programmers, it's tons of code reviews, and asking questions, and the code review process that I follow, I can go into that a different day. It's not what the kind of code review you would experience in a medium-sized company. In a medium-sized company, you check for a few things, and if there aren't anything glaring, you go ahead. But if I followed that for my startup, then I would, I have no doubt that after a while I'll end up with this mess. I've thought about that a lot. I guess what I'm trying to say is that there are tons of things that I need to do, completely different roles, and um, trying to context switch fewer times in a day might be more productive, counterintuitively. Um, Although, so basically I'd be increasing the bandwidth of my output at the cost of the latency of my output. You could think of it that way. And so let's see. It's all an experiment anyway. I'm gonna give this a try and see how I do with that. Oh, just to say, none of this is prescriptive, by the way. Don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about. So I have a couple of things that I wanted to talk about. What else? Yeah. So the exploration loop, right? I think that's super important. What I mean by that is when you start coding and then you think of these ideas, I think I should still allow for that. I just need a better process for capturing that and then get back on track quickly. So I wanted to just share that. Hopefully that was interesting, and that's it from me for today. My cup of coffee is almost out, so talk to you tomorrow.